A new CNN ORC poll finds 47% in favor of NBA owners forcing Sterling to sell. 50% are against that sale. So let's talk about that with LZ Granderson and Marc Lamont Hill, along with CNN's Christine Romans. Welcome to all of you.
Good to be here.
Hi. So LZ.
Morning, Carol.
Good morning, LZ. I was just going to start with you because I'm not really surprised by this, because here is a private business owner saying horrible things in the privacy of his own home, and now all of a sudden he has to sell his property.
Absolutely, and this is part of the reason why at the very beginning of this story I was really emphasizing not the comments that were taped by a girlfriend, but rather the history and the well-documented legislative history or legal history he has in terms of housing discrimination, because that to me is something that you can sink this story into. Hanging everything, and that's what Commissioner Silver did during the press conference, was that he hung everything on these comments that he made to his girlfriend, and that just doesn't feel right to the average American. And so I'm not surprised by those numbers at all.
Yeah. I think the truth is he wasn't hanging everything on that conversation, but he had to say that publicly because there was no legal decision made in the DOJ case. Also, the workplace discrimination case, he didn't lose. So in both cases, it would be hard to get rid of somebody for cases that he was never found guilty of.
Why not let the fans decide? Because you know the fans would have boycotted. They would have boycotted the games. The players would have boycotted, right?
Oh, absolutely. It would have sent the whole NBA into a complete uproar. I mean, imagine if you were in the playoff season and suddenly you weren't having playoff games. I mean, the solution for the NBA, I think this was the best solution, but we're not done yet. I mean, we don't know what Donald Sterling's going to do. We don't know if he's going to fight. We don't know if he's going to sell on his own, or if it's going to be a very long, litigious process ahead. So this is, I mean, to mix my sports metaphors, I think we're in the second inning of this story, Carol.
I think so too.
I think so too. You were going to say, LZ, I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, I was going to say, I mean, it's true that he definitely lost those cases and ended up paying tens of millions of dollars out of court. But what is also true is that we know way back in 1982, Donald Sterling was recorded making racist comments, and that a small contingency of owners were working to try to force him to sell back in 1982, and then they just sort of dropped the ball. They admittedly dropped the ball on that. Donald Sterling promised to sell back in '82 and then didn't, allowing the anger to subside, and they ended up obviously keeping the team for another 30 years. This is part of the reason why Silver went that route. Not just because he lost with the Department of Justice suits, but because there's a long history of him being in the NBA under the watch of Commissioner Stern, who was Adam Silver's mentor and friend and who handpicked him to be this year's commissioners. So it's not just about what happened in the court system. It's also about loyalty and not wanting to throw the previous commissioner under the bus for allowing this man to be in the league for 30+ years.
Interesting take. I like that. Talking about Sterling and whether he's going to fight this, I mean, it's pretty obvious that he is. Like his wife, I guess, they're still together, although I don't know why. I can't wrap my head around that.
That's a reality show in the making.
I know, it really is. But she seems to be inserting herself into things, right? Yeah. So he may turn the team over to her. And TMZ Sports is reporting that Sterling reached out to lawyers, including lawyers who've represented numerous celebrities, including Paula Deen.
Oh, interesting, right? Here's the interesting thing about this is he bought this team in 1981 for $12 million. I mean, he stands to make a great deal of money on this team and have a very big tax bill. You have to wonder if he's trying to figure out how he can limit his tax bill if he's forced to sell this team. I mean, there are numerous sort of financial interests all along the way. I mean, he could net, if it's $575 million like Forbes says it's valued at. I mean, look at this. He paid $12 million. So let's say the value of the team is $575 million. It's a $563 million profit and an almost $200 million tax bill.
Wow.
But he could say, and under California law, he could say that this was a forced sale. He didn't want to sell. If he bought something similar, like another team, he wouldn't have to pay the taxes on it.
Wow. What league's going to let that happen?
No way. I think the good thing in all of this is that people really are considering the Clippers America's team, and America seems to have banded together and gotten behind this team. The ratings have gone up. It's fabulous, right?
Exactly. And they're America's team for good reasons and bad reasons. We're wrapping our arms around them, but the Clippers situation represents America's position on race. It's complicated and messy. Many people, as you mentioned, the polls show that white people have a very different take on what on the forced sale than black people do. It's a very interesting conversation. Some people are focusing more on how the information was obtained, while others are much more interested in what was on the tape itself.
Well, let me.
People have different views.
Yeah,
Very true,
exactly.
very true.
And NBA fans are majority white, right?
Yeah.
If you're an NBA fan, you're more likely to want the NBA to force Sterling to sell the team than not.
Exactly.
So it's kind of complicated.
It's very complicated and very interesting.
Right. So let's talk about the T-shirts because I kind of like this part of the story. So the NBA has do you know about this, LC? They put out these T-shirts so people can buy it saying "We are one."
Oh.
But it's going to charity. The money's going to
Listen,
charity. We're
you know
told.
what? I think to me, it's capitalizing on racial discomfort, and I'm not a big fan of that. I know in the poll that a lot of Americans believe that race relations are good, and I happen to be one of those Americans. I believe that interpersonal race relations are good. To me, it's the institutional and structural race relations that still need a lot of work. And selling T-shirts like this, I think, is a nice, feel-good, kind of nice, warm blanket around your shoulders, but doesn't really talk about the things that we really need to talk about. I mean, this "We Are One" thing, it's like kumbaya, but
right.
I mean, housing discrimination is still going on with or without Donald Sterling earning the Clippers.
Right. It's like we are one, but I can't get a job.
Right.
America loves to buy a
We are
T-shirt
one,
instead of change
but my
the world.
unemployment rate is twice the average American's.
Cheaper and easier, right?
Right.
Easier to wear a T-shirt than actually
Right.
fix something.
Yeah, but just to be clear, because at first I thought, oh my gosh, the NBA is profiting off this controversy, and it's not, because all of the proceeds will go to charity.
Anti-discrimination groups.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's a good thing, and it will not go at all, anyway to Donald Sterling.
No.
Yeah, okay.
We would hope. But I mean, I've been looking at his numbers, and there's a lot of money there.
There is a lot of money there. Marc, Lamont Hill, LZ Granderson, Christine Romans, thanks to all of you. Still to come in the newsroom.